Welcome, everyone, to the 6th episode of Dead Inside Podcast. I am your host, Matt Awesome, and tonight my guest is none other than the Shoebox Poet, a.k.a. Kenny. How you doing today?
Pretty good. It's just busy day.
Yep, nothing wrong with being busy.
No, definitely not. It's just running around all over the place. But it pays the bills.
Yep, and we're running the place as, man, we're hitting up all these gigs and shows on the poetry scene. So what I like to ask is, how did we meet?
We met at Everything Bar and Grill through Frizzy.
Mm-hmm.
He had his Poets Playground there, and that's how we come to meet.
Yeah. You like coming there a lot? Is that like one of your favorite open mics for?
It is. That's where I got my start.
Okay.
Doing open mic with him. Now, there was a time back in 2002, 2003, where I was going over to Kijiji's over on Jefferson when it was around and doing open mics there on Friday nights.
Mm. Yeah. Frizzy's got like a cool open mic at Everything Bar and Lounge, which is located at 3069 Brick Church Pike. So if you're in the Nashville scene and love doing poetry, that's the place to be.
Yeah, first and third Wednesday of the month.
Yep, on a Wednesday night, first and third Wednesday from now 8 to 9. So yeah. So what really got you into poetry? Like, what were some of your influences growing up?
Well, a lot of my influences were Edgar Allan Poe, Emily Dickinson, Robert Frost. Those were the people that I heard a lot about growing up, and read some of their poetry, but not a lot until I got into college. The thing that really got me more involved in poetry and writing it was a girl. It was like any other situation. It was a girl I met online right when the internet just started back in back in the early '90s.
Yeah.
We ended up meeting on MRRC, which is like a bulletin board service. Basically, you go in there and it just the screen has the person's name and it just rolls like old AOL.
Yeah.
And she was from Queensland, Australia.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it was definitely the time difference was a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah.
But it was a lot of fun being able to talk and connect with her. And I just started falling in love with her and started writing her poetry. And over the course of like 6 or 7 months, poetry was really flowing through her, and until things kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
But I kept writing, and I started collecting my poetry in a shoebox.
Okay.
And that's how the Shoebox Poet kind of that came about later. But I just kept putting all my poetry in the shoebox or anything that was related to it, because at that point I had been published in a couple of anthologies through Green Press, which is poetry.com. It's still around, but it's in a different format than it was back then.
Right.
So after a few things that happened, I got back into poetry. I mean, I still wrote, or I still write and everything, but it just didn't really start start coming around me more often until I lost my aunt, my grandmother, then my fiance left, my mom passed. So it was a thing that I used to fall back on to be able to help myself heal.
Yeah. Yeah, writing is very therapeutic, because there's times where, I mean, sure, I know a lot of people, but then when you go home sometimes and close the door, it's just like, well, home, alone, even though I got roommates, but still it's just like, well, at least writing's still here. I can just go back, write, and then just release whatever thoughts or feelings that I have. It's really like, it's helped me, get through a dark place too, in some aspects. But I see you got some books right there.
Yes, this is my newest book. It's Drowning in the Iris of a Woman.
Mm-hmm.
And this book was basically written over a year. And it's mostly a collection of, poetry that I've written through word prompts, through conversations and thoughts that I've had. Just little things. I mean, it
Right.
could be like, you and I could be talking about just some kind of random thing, and then I want to carry that a little bit further with that thought, beyond what the conversation you and I had.
Right.
And then a lot of times it's like, something inspired me. And then what inspired me about, drowning in the iris of a woman is basically I met a girl at this convention, and she was very, very beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. It's basically Game of Thrones.
Okay.
It's basically, it's not, that's Game of Thrones is a TV series. This is the book series.
Okay.
Well, I met the girl there, and we talked about different things, but I couldn't get over how beautiful her eyes were, just
yeah.
and how easy it was just to get lost in her. Unfortunately, she has a boyfriend, and it's just like, I'm not going to sit here and pine all after that. So I just, even though I would write stuff about it, I'm just like, it's got to hang this up. So it just, started looking and writing in other things and other avenues and exploring those, but leaving that one behind. In designing my books, because as I said, this is my 8th book, and I've been designing different ones, and I've been self-publishing since 2019.
Wow! So 3 years you've written 8 books.
Yep. I published 3 in 2019. 3 more in 2021, and then I had one in 2022, 2022, and 2020, and then 21 in 2021, and then one this year. Which said it's going to be kind of a race between whether I'll publish the 9th poetry book or a Western story that I've been working on, trying to get somewhere on it. Basically, it's up in here, but it's just not written down. And I just started working on it yesterday, so it's a work in progress.
Oh yeah. And where can people get your books at?
Well, they can get them on Amazon. They just go in and search for Clarence Plank, and that's basically what most of the books are titled. Go by being an author and everything. And or they can, whenever I'm at a gig or an open mic or something, I usually have them there with me that anybody can buy them. They come in like the Kindle version or the paperback.
Right.
And it's kind of a difficult to do, set up for design and stuff, because you got to lay it out, and it's a little bit faster this time around than it was in the beginning, because the beginning it took me about 3 weeks just to be able to do anything, because I had to learn it.
Yeah.
And this one right here, Words for a Muse. This one right here is the 5th book, and it came out during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So everything that's in here is during that time, and that's because I look at my books more of a memoir.
Okay.
More than actual just because there's no theme in these books.
Right.
Because it's just like, okay, this is what I'm feeling this day, and this is what I'm thinking about or what I'm writing about, and that's basically what I put into the book. And this one being the 3rd book, and Righter of Wrongs.
I like that title.
Thank you. It came to me in the shower. This book is basically, half of it is from the Shoebox. The Finding Peace Within the Storm and the Shoebox Poet, those first and 2nd books, and this one right here are basically all the poems that were in those books. in the shoebox basically.
Yeah.
And this one right here has half, and this is like a lot of new poems that I wrote specifically for the book. And this came out in October of 2019. So, and I still have a lot more poetry I can do from my shoebox, because there's like notebooks and like other little things that are in there that I have yet to publish.
How many poems have you think you've written in your entire life?
Probably over 1,000.
Over 1,000?
Probably even a little bit more too. I mean, it's just there was like a time when I couldn't shut it off. It just came to me, and you're just sitting there trying to sleep, and it just kept you up at night, because one after the other just kept on coming out. Yeah,
that's like always like the worst thing, because it's like you got a great idea you want to write about, but it's like, oh, I gotta go to bed, I gotta sleep, but then it's like, you know what, I don't care, I'm gonna write it down anyways until it's finished, and then, but sometimes it's like, oh, I'll remember it in the morning, but then you actually don't. That's like always the worst thing, because I've had like so many ideas that I wanted to write, and then it's like, I should have wrote it down last night. But
well, I started dictating a lot of stuff into a recorder.
Yeah.
And it's just trying to get that train of thought going into it when you start doing things like that. Usually it's so easy when you're with a pen, you can just, or a paper, pen and paper, so you can just write it out, and it's just like the thoughts clear. But when you're sitting there, you're like trying to think of things, and you're like, That's mostly how I'm writing this Western story, is basically when being on the road, and in between stops or something, anything that comes to mind, I just start speaking and writing out working out a scene or something.
Yeah.
And that seems like it's gonna work, because you just got to go back and just write it as it plays.
Yeah. I like how you mentioned that all your poems don't really have like a like you said, it was more of a memoir. I can relate to that, because really, like, most of my writings are pretty much like memoirs, really, because it's just like, there's not really a theme per se, but it's just like, this is what I felt in this moment, this is, what I want to say, so I can, like, relate to that.
Well, the thing that people, see, I was a journalist for a little while, like 2 years out in New Mexico. And for me, when I write, I'm more conversational.
Me too.
That's how I communicate and everything. So everything's in a simple form. I'm not one of these people who use big flashy words, because a lot of the people who are in my audience are not that sophisticated. And I mean, it's not saying it's in a bad way.
Right.
I'm just like, I'm trying to reach them on a level where, out of respect.
Right.
And I don't want to sit there and talk over their heads, because everybody has been through a difficult time in their life, no matter where. No matter who they are. So whether you're rich or poor, old or young, it says you've been through something in your life. And what I'm hoping to do is, by what I write, it will reach somebody. And I've had a few people that that picked up the book and just couldn't put it down, because they enjoyed reading it so much, and just how relatable things were to them, and just reading it. So I mean, I'm not really Robert Frost or Edgar Allan Poe or anybody like that, and I'm just me, because that's what I want people to accept me for me. This is me.
Right. And I share that same mindset too. Like, I'm me. What you see me whenever I'm performing, or you see whenever I do eventually get books out. Like, what you see, that's me. Like, for real. And no matter what, I want at least, someone out there to be able to feel impacted with what I say. Good or bad, like, I just want to be able to impact people's lives, more so in a positive way, but in a sense, like, have that connection with people.
I mean, me or you really can't control the perception that somebody's mind creates of them.
Mm-hmm.
Or creates of what we do or what we do, how we say things and everything. Because I mean, we may say something, and it may be nothing wrong with that, but in their mind and how they process that, they may take it as a knock on them or something. I mean, there's a lot of times when I will go and do open mic, and I'm up here doing poetry. I write poetry about love sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But there's deep poetry in there that goes a lot deeper than love. There are some that goes and deals with loss. There's some that deal with mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
There's some that that deal with perversion and different other kind of things. I mean, it's just you get trapped in your head so many times, and you just have to work through work through whatever the madness is going through your head.
Oh yeah.
And that's why it took a long time for me to put it out there, because I didn't know how people were going to relate to this or how to take it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, doing the erotica book, I was like, oh crap, this somebody going to read this and be like, oh hell.
Right.
So it's just something to to try new in doing, but it just, as I said, it just seems like some people like it and then some people just don't. It just
right
is what it is.
Like, as long as they take the time to just even, whether see you perform or get a chance to like just look at your book, like, it still means a lot, because they took time out of their day to read how much this has impacted you. So that's always like, that's the way I kind of look at it,
Mm-hmm.
So, and you got to impact them in whether it was an hour or how many minutes, so.
And there's just so many different things. I mean, when you talk to people, they're like, oh, you publish this many books, and I say, yeah, and I will, try and help them to, if they're going to go, want to write a book themselves, and they're like, or, go through the process of doing things, explain to them what you can do and what you can't do, and because there's a lot of people that have that on their bucket list. I want to, publish a book someday.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels so different when you're holding it in your hands, because, you look at it and you say, I created this.
Right.
Much like a child, it's like, hey, I created this, it spits up everywhere, and, change the diapers and all that other stuff. Just right here, you don't have to do those things.
Right.
But it is something to enjoy at the end of the day.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, you got any other future goals as a writer or poet in the near future? Like,
well, as I said, I really want to step out into poetry and into writing fiction or science fiction and things like that. Do my best to maybe travel a little further out and do an open mic. That way, people who are really close friends to me, I can be able to meet them, because there are a lot of people who are my fans, but who are friends of mine that I've known for through the Game of Thrones, which is they have like a Game of Thrones community on Facebook called After the Con, which was a Game of Thrones convention.
Okay.
And there were a lot of people who supported me through that, who didn't get a chance to meet me when they were here for the last convention.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to be able to go and meet them in person, because they have supported me in in my dream of doing this. Just be able to travel a lot more.
Yeah.
Be able to see places, UK, Australia, Italy, Germany, places like that.
Yeah, I think that's on a lot of people's bucket list, especially mine, because like, I got people that they moved, because I've lived in Tennessee all my life, but I've seen some of my friends come and go, but there's like some people I still talk to, like even family members.
Mm-hmm.
Like they live outside of Tennessee, and it's like they see me doing great things right now, because a lot of them, they haven't seen me since I was a teen.
Mhm.
But now I'm like an adult. It's just like, man, like I really want to like see them so bad and try to do like an open mic or whatever, wherever they're at or close by, and
Mhm.
that way they can get a taste. Because it's one thing for them to see them on, you know, social media, but it's another to just see it in person.
It's true.
So.
I have an uncle and aunt who live in Georgia, and they have yet to see me perform an open mic. They have bought a couple. Have bought my books and stuff, and my aunt was the one who is an inspiration to me because she's a writer.
Yeah.
She writes a little bit different than what I write, because she writes. She wrote Flash.
Okay.
It's basically, pick any kind of TV series, and they would slice the characters. This is mostly for, probably queer, or gay, and things like that. And I'm not trying to be, I'm really working on my pronouns and stuff. I'm sorry, I'm still trying to get that down. But she wrote those, things, but she wrote it more of just like a typical love story kind of thing, or sci-fi, but she did that within the TV series and stuff. Something like a Highlander, a Due South, things like that. And so she wrote. And while I did, I read some of it, but not a lot of it. But it was just inspiring for her what she was doing to be able to write.
Yeah.
So that's something I always wanted to do, was to write. And my sister, she came up and went to an open mic. This was before COVID, and she enjoyed herself. So it's I kind of wish that my mom was alive, would be able to see the books and
right.
and doing the open mics. But unfortunately, if depending on where you believe in faith and everything, she's probably watching.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I had an aunt, and this is before I even started performing or anything. She was like really like into my poems that I was writing, and then unfortunately, she passed. And like I believe it was like 2 or 3 months after she passed, I actually had gotten my first ever gig. So that was just like, man, like I wish she was able to see at least me, be on a stage, or at least see that, okay, doing, what I love to do.
True.
But, yeah, out of all my family members, only a sister has only been to, like, 2 or 3 open mics that I've been at, which, she's been really supportive.
Yeah.
But then I got oldest sister that does not talk to me at all. I don't know if she'll ever talk to me again, but, it would be nice if, she saw, what I was doing.
True.
But, I don't know, we'll see how that goes, but.
My sister, on her dad's side of the family, she has brothers and sisters, and they do claim me as their, like a sibling to them. And they bought some of the books, and they basically, watched a lot of the videos I post online.
Right.
So they haven't seen anything yet, but that's, they're down in Georgia and stuff. I'm hoping at some point they'll be able to see stuff, or be able to be there. So I'm, hoping to be able to travel more places at some point in time.
Yeah, I really want to get more gigs outside of Tennessee, and especially traveling, because like there's even a guy, I think I mentioned this to you last week, from Australia that found out about my show, and he's coming to Nashville, in September, and he was like, hey, I'm interested in your open mic, and so I want to try and make that like a really big show, get some people out there, because he's like this award-winning author over there.
Oh, wow.
And he's attending like some story conference that week of my show, so that's going to be really cool, because storytelling's like also my forte as well. So it's going to be really interesting, these next couple months, and especially because, the poetry scene has been booming.
Yep.
Like I didn't even realize how big it was till I started doing my own open mic, because I started mine during when COVID restrictions were kind of being lifted,
Mhm.
and then a couple months went by. Because originally I wanted to do more storytelling based, but I had some poets too, and I allowed poetry. I allowed comedians, but I started getting just poets, and it was like, okay, I'll just start writing poetry again, and then I just started coming to several other events. I found out about Po' Boys months after I'd started my own open mic, because I thought I was the only one doing it, but then I was like, oh, Po' Boys has been doing it for a while,
Yeah.
and it was and they they attract big crowds, so it's and then I found out eventually about Poets Playground too, so it was all right, and now I'm a part of Prodigal Poets, so, it's really cool how big the poetry scene is, but also just how not just big, but it's just a positive, it's not a toxic, environment, whereas music, I love music, don't get me wrong, but music can be a real toxin, environment.
Yeah, I had a bunch of roommates that were musicians and doing other things, and yeah, it was an interesting situation.
Yeah.
From time to time, as basically when I was going to church, and so I'm glad I got out of that situation.
Right.
But there was a lot of the Poets Playground. I've been part of that since 2019, and Frizzy was doing that down in Columbia.
Yeah.
And that's how I got to meet him and started doing the stuff down there. And during the COVID, I went over and started doing a lot of the virtual mics and stuff. But I kind of got out of it after a while.
Yeah, it's just not the same.
No. But there was a point where this girl who was a really very supportive of me, a huge, almost a number one fan.
Yeah.
Something happened and she ended up dying, so I didn't get it. And I had just saw her that Saturday, and she ended up dying that Wednesday.
Oh man.
And that really threw me for a loop because she was something special.
Right.
Because she was a good friend and she was supportive, and it's really hard to find people who are like that and just just want to talk.
Yeah.
And that's what there's that little flint of regret, in things just maybe if I did a little bit more of this, maybe I talked to her a lot more, or spent more time with her, or just just a lot of those what if kind of things.
Right.
But those things don't bring her back, unfortunately. So all you can do is just hope and pray that next time a situation like that comes up, you can just find a way to be able to reach out to that person.
Oh yeah.
And but I started getting back into things with Frizzy once he got over COVID and got out.
Yeah.
And I did a poor boy show, and I enjoyed it. And it was going back and do that. And I got Americano Lounge tomorrow.
Yep. I'll be there.
Yeah. And I don't know about the Pomfrey and Beer down in Dixon. I don't know.
That's too far of a drive for me.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm coming up here because the Poets Playground thing on that Saturday, and I don't know. Have to wait and see.
Right. So, where can people follow you on social media?
Well, they can follow me, Night Joker 10 on Instagram, the Shoebox Poet 45 on Facebook, and Shoebox Poet on YouTube. I don't really do many videos. I try to do the best I can to load stuff up. It's just I'm technically savvy to a point. It's not really just it's not dedication for me. I'm sitting there, I'm playing with, I'm sitting there watching a kitty, just ooh, hey,
Right.
Easily distracted. But that's where you can find me.
Okay. Anything else you would like to add before we close this episode off?
Definitely come and check out my shows. Come out and check your show out. Over at Twin Kegs too.
Yep.
Definitely come out and listen to. Even if you don't see us, definitely go somewhere.
Yeah.
And get plugged into Poets Playground. Get plugged into any kind of Hoboys or anything. If you're a spoken word artist or a poet, and you want to get out and meet some really fabulous and talented artists, definitely do that. Definitely plug into whoever you can find, because it's a wonderful feeling.
I agree. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you.
And I'll be seeing you tomorrow.
I'll see you then.
So there you have it, Dead Inside Podcast, Episode 6. I'm Matt Awesome, and this is a Shoebox Poet, and y'all stay awesome.
Stay awesome.